Ah, man, I was getting funky right there. I think I got a little weird. There we go. Guten Morgen. My name is Van McDonell. I'm the Chief FX Market Strategist for TradersWay.com. 3 diamonds in the sky. I'm proud to be here every morning to help you become a successful Forex trader. I'm here to earn your loyalty and respect, push you in the right direction, pull you in the right direction, kick you in the right direction, bribe you in the right direction. And I'm trying to get you to be a successful Forex trader, build your confidence, build your skills, and when you're ready to trade real money, you'll choose TradersWay as your broker. If you start a Forex trading firm and trade other people's money, perhaps you'll choose TradersWay as your prime brokerage firm. So visit TradersWay.com today and open a demo. Give us a chance. Let me remind you that trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, it's not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Hey, did the Yankees win last night? I don't even know. Any baseball fans? Who's going to play Boston? Or I guess that would be against Cleveland, right? Do you guys happen to know? Really? It'd be good for ratings. Nope. Anyways. Is that right, Johnny? I'm on John's best side today. Sorry. Minnesota. Hey, I come from the land where people would go. They would drive or fly south to Minnesota because the weather was so much warmer. Shows you where I'm from, Johnny. Most Americans are like, Minnesota, I can never go to Minnesota. It's too far north. And I come from a land where like, Minnesota down south? That's like going to Orlando. So anyways, you ready to go? Let's start up left. Beep. What was our analysis yesterday? Too many lines. For some reason, I have this outlined as a bottom. Anybody remember why? There's so many lines. Looks like yesterday we said, well, we know we can't sell. Confluence, can we be more specific? Yeah, John says the Russian flank played by the North. You know that they placed it with a submarine under the ice, which is even funnier. It's the projected bottom for the week. That's why. Isn't that funny? That's the projected bottom for the week. And guess what? You know you can't sell there. Yeah. Just by definition, right? So now you have to decide what you want to do with that. Do you start, you know, trying to make this like a, oh, I guess I got to move this out of your way. Right? Like now it's unclear because, well, you know you can't sell. Well, you could actually sell here, couldn't you? But you have to decide how you want to treat this. Okay? See how it was still bearish, then consolidating, then break. Are you treating this like a higher high yet? It's great. We just did that discussion about when to know when to be aggressive and when to be conservative. It's cool. So you need to make decisions on smaller time frames is all I'm saying, right? So go into 15. So many lines, I know. But, you know, how are you going to treat this? Up, 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 down, down. Did you treat it like a higher high? Right? Can you see what I did? Erica, is that true? I mean, I might have missed yesterday, but other than that, I don't miss too many. But I do apologize yesterday. I've had a really crazy schedule these days. Is that right? All right, so I'll take a look, guys. I apologize for that. So you can see, or maybe you cannot, but you can see I have a long order. Oh, right in there. I meant to just draw a line. Okay, there we go. So I'm long about here. So I could, if I want to be a cheeky monkey, let's say, have a stop below the 786 or below this. Okay. Or below this. Well, it depends on how long I expect to be in there. Yeah, Anthony, I typically pull the trigger on the 15-minute or even the 5. Okay, but this is the weekly bottom. So I bought a higher high, higher low scenario. It doesn't mean it's going to work. I mean, it's still not much of a trade, but it's something. I mean, it's just another trade, right? Sometimes sometimes you fall in love, and sometimes it's just another trade. I don't know. Oh. Yeah, Brendan. So it depends on what your strategy is, right? So one may know that the theory. So I'm assuming, like, for example, you've done the swing trading course. I mean, I can't cover everything every day, every day, every day, every day. So a swing trader knows that the target is right here. But you can already see that it's previously highlighted. So, so how much do I want to risk for that? Well, la, 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 la. What does that say? 100 and it's about 180 pips to my entry. 180 pips. So how much do you want to risk for that? 50? 60? So let's see where I am now. My stop is 40. It's 50. There we go. So with my stop down there, I have a 3-to-1 risk-reward ratio, if you want to think about it that way. Felipe, it's not non-farm payrolls in 4 minutes. I might believe you if you said ADP. So anyways, here's our oil analysis from yesterday. And I'm sitting just below break even. So I'll drop a stop, take a walk. So I'm in at 50-50.
This is Vanessa.
Yeah, the Aussie was close to the
we'll see the September ADP employment change, expected 135,000, the private 137,000. We've seen a disparity between this economic release and the overall non-farm payrolls in recent months. We focus on the payroll data on Friday. Just note the financial press commenting that the Catalonian president will declare independence as soon as possible, and speculations that he'll make the formal announcement to his parliament on Monday, October 9th.
Yeah. Stop talking, geez. So anyways, going back to the peso trade we talked about off camera, at least on this vertical line, we know we only want to sell. It's the one thing we know for sure. We only want to sell. We either sell or we don't sell.
ADP data just due out momentarily. Again, 135,000 is the consensus. In line with expectations, 135,000.
$1.35. Boop, boop.
Back month revised to 228,000 from 237,000, so revised slightly lower there for the August ADP employment report. Take a look at some of the numbers. Small businesses were down 7,000. Medium businesses were plus 63,000. Large businesses plus 79,000. Manufacturing and construction saw good growth, 29,000 for construction and 18,000 for manufacturing. And in terms of the commentary, Hurricane Harvey and Irma did hurt the job market in September. Looking through the storms, the job market remains steady and strong, says Mark Zandi, the chief economist at Moody's. Again, we do see that showing up, particularly in the small business number, with the small business jobs dropping by 7,000 in September.
Trying to clean this one up. This should be kicking off moving averages, and then you see that it didn't. So this is a pretty lame setup, but we'll cover that. Thank you, TradeTheNews.com. Okay, so the setup, if you're a bear, is to have sold in here. If you're a bull, the setup, you know what, I'll just draw it. I think it'll be easier. The setup, if you're a bull, is to buy it off of here. So that hasn't worked. This is, I guess, better. It's not perfect as a bull, or I mean as a bear. It went a little too high. It kind of got near the midpoint psych. It didn't really kick off a pivot on this time frame anyways. So and so forth. Like it's not great. It's not convincing one way or the other. So the next thing that's likely to happen is, let's just assume it keeps falling. Why would I say that? Yeah, but I wouldn't assume it's going to keep falling if it's at support. Oh, oil at support. Okay. Well, we're analyzing this chart. We're not doing intermarket analysis. It's not quite a double top yet. You can't call it a double top yet. It was at the M3. Yeah, but still, technically it's still up. Because the 55 is in control. Okay, the 21 is dead to me. So my assumption now, I guess I'll use an arrow. My assumption now is something like this is going to happen. Okay. If I want to remain a bull, this is a buy, and yeah, that's a buy, and maybe this one. You know, this seems more convincing. If this is the buy, you could do a couple of things with this. I mean, maybe we head up here first and then we head down, or we head down and then we head up. That even seems more believable. So let's redo this. How about down, false high, crush your spirits? Okay, but let's get the spidey senses out of this. The 55 predicts at best a double top and then a drop. That's it. If it was so bullish, it was supposed to go north here. Questions? Right? If you had already gone long, so let's say you bought here, that's fine. Okay, then your stop is just below this. Okay, let it work, let it do its thing. If that's what your trade plan was and you kicked it off the 21, then you're bullish and aggressive, and that's fine. Yeah, so Stuart says it in past tense, meaning hopefully you bought here, but you should still be in the trade if you did it. Yeah. The reason for it is until it makes a lower low, it's an uptrend, really. And most people, what they do, or amateur traders, is what they do is they buy in the right place and then they jam their stop so close that they get knocked out all the time, right? No, you don't have to be worried about M3 to M1 because you're bullishly aggressive. There are no worries. And in scenarios like that, you can see how aggressive the market is. Like, for example, look at this. That's opening up at the M3. You're worried about bears? Okay. You don't have to worry. You're bullish and aggressive. So in that scenario, when it opens high and you're a bull, you use the moving averages. Okay. Well, you're bullish and aggressive. What more do you need to be sure about? Is that a Barcelona shirt? Oh, don't think you can see that one. No, sorry. College day. In fact, I slept in so much earlier that I had a thing at a certain time, and I got up like 8 minutes before that time. Jumped in the shower and then threw this on as fast as possible. I'm just so tired. So tired. So anyways. No, it's college day. Look, even got my mug, which is now empty. I might have to go get some more coffee. Now, Peter says that's interesting. Peter says it's frustrating that he's always 30 pips in the hole before it gets going. Interesting. So what does that tell you? Too early. No, it's not a terrible entry. You're just early. I'm assuming that it works out and you end up being profitable anyways. Now, here's the funny thing. If you can be a little more patient and work on your entry, you'll probably make 20 more pips. And let's say only have it go down 10 pips before going back up. Now, 20 extra pips is a lot, especially if you're looking at over the course of 1 year. Right? That might be 100 trades that you get an extra 20 pips profit on. For shizzle my nizzle. So you need to specifically, now this is what I tell you to do every week, right? Print out all your charts that you did from the previous week. You should do this every weekend. Print out all the charts, because I know you're keeping screenshots of every single trade. So you print those out, and you sit down, and you analyze them. I've even taught you how to analyze them using a cover sheet. Go through and analyze every single trade again. Really look at it. Every candle, every cross of a moving average, every touch of a pivot, and then analyze how well you did. Write down what you did well, write down what you can improve on. Go to the next trade. Go to the next trade. This might take you hours. So, it's going to take you hours to count the stacks of cash on your... Right? You're going to be so rich that you'll just stuff cash into a laundry basket and you're like, yeah, that's $1 million. Yeah, on the beach counting your cash. Like, oh, I just lost 100,000, but I'm so rich as a currency trader, I'll just make some more. Right, I'll be one of those kids on YouTube. Yeah, I'm driving a Bentley GT. Forex is that easy. Boom, boom. It's a lifestyle. So anyways. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out they're just affiliates selling you some crap. Amazing. So, what the hell were we talking about now? Oh, you're early. So, work on it. Your life now consumes the process of you refining your entries. Okay? What was going on the higher time frame? What were the pivots that made the turn? And then reward yourself for what you're doing right. We very often forget to do that, and this is a game of confidence, right? Not a confidence game. A game of confidence. We talked about that a couple of weeks or a couple of days ago, right? How to build confidence through consistency, and you can't be consistent if you have no control, right? So say to yourself, all right, every time I pull the trigger, I seem to be minus 30 before it goes anywhere positive, but I'm picking the trend properly. I'm buying in an uptrend, fantastic. I'm selling in a downtrend, fantastic. So I'm really good at that. How do you do that? Why are you so good at picking the trend? That's a valid question, but when you ask yourself that way, psychologically, it does a lot of interesting things versus, you're working on all the bad things, right? Why are you so good at picking the trend? What do you do? Do you start at a higher time frame? Yes or no? Great. Well, if that starts out really good, then why don't you identify support and resistance on a higher time frame as well and see if that helps? And if that doesn't help, then let's find the support and resistance, the sub-support and sub-resistance at the lower time frames. What works better for you? Monthly pivots, weekly pivots, daily pivots? Do you trade off clusters? Okay. Then when you go through all your trades, which ones do you go minus 30 on? And what makes the trade turn positive again? What is it? Was it a pivot? Was it the next pivot? Was it the next moving average? Was it a moving average on a higher time frame? Right? You really investigate this. Think about it. It may increase your profits by 50% and reduce the amount of stress by 50%. So it might be the one thing you work on all year. Now, that might sound ridiculous to you, but I've been sitting here for 15 years. So 1 year to me is like nothing. It's a joke. What are you talking about? Okay? Chuck says, about fine-tuning. To me, it's not even fine-tuning. It's doing it right. Right? It's being the master of your domain. It's being the best you can possibly be. But, it's amazing, like, let's say you work really hard for 1 year, but you end up being a currency trader for 14 more years. But your profit per trade has gone up 20%, and you're living a less, or not 20%, 20 pips. And the stress levels have decreased dramatically. But, like I said, that could be an extra 2,000 pips a year by just doing your job better than the average bro, right? So John says 1 year is an entirety to a new trader because they don't make it, right? But what do those new traders do that make them fail? They don't do things like taking screenshots of their trades, reviewing their trade plans, identifying strengths and weaknesses, right? And focusing on really, truly analysis of your analysis. They just trade like a bunch of retards. Great, you're fired. Next, right? Someone's sitting there and truly analyzing and getting down into the weeds. When it does go up, so, okay, we can agree trend has been identified properly. Great. How? Great. We analyze that. Great. Then the trade goes down minus 30 before heading up. Great. Another fact. Great. But what does turn it north? Because eventually it does turn north. What's 30 pips below? What is it? Because once you figure that out, now you have your entry. You see that? Now that's your, because it's different depending on where everyone enters, right? Based on your analysis and your trading specifically, now you know your sweet spot. And maybe you buy at the 382, and maybe statistically based on your own analysis and the tools that you use, a 618 is dramatically better. But so that's what it is, right? Right? So John, those traders are the ones that make it to year 2, year 3, year 4. And you're right. Most people don't even make it, right? But they'll never make it. Doesn't matter. Right? I feel like quoting Jay-Z again. They don't exist. They just don't exist. They're just liquidity events. Like when I make a profitable trade, where does that cash come from? Some idiot. right? Someone made a stupid trade. Someone sold at the monthly central pivot in an uptrend. Good. Good. They don't exist. I don't feel bad for them. Right? So it's what you're doing that differentiates whether you're on your path to being a professional trader or you're just looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. Right? If you're not willing to do the work, then forget it. It doesn't matter. You've already lost. So I'm just saying, right? Now Peter's got something very, 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 very specific to focus on. I'd be so ecstatic. So my trades go down 30 pips before going up. So why don't I do two things? And of course, now I'm talking in third person. So if I was Peter, how about this? Peter, how about this? You have two accounts. One, you trade whenever you think you should trade. And the second one, you put an entry order, let's say 25 pips or 20 pips below where you actually pulled the trigger. Or you might be able to find an EA somewhere, okay? And this is actually probably better. See if you can find an EA, because I know I had one years ago that did something similar to what I'm about to say, but when you pull a trigger, it automatically puts in a working order 20 pips below your first entry. Kind of like a stop loss, but it's not a stop loss. It's an entry order. You see what I mean? And then at the end of the year, not the end of this year, 365 days from today, find out which one did better. Now, the problem with that advice is it just makes you reliant on blah. I'd rather you figure it out. Yeah, it's a crutch. I'd rather you figure it out. Like, what is the true support and resistance? That's smarter, isn't it? So you need to investigate that. But sometimes it's really good statistically to figure it out too. Right? So, like, just prove it to you which one's better. You're like, oh, at the end of the year, because then you can quantify it, right? You could say, well, if I had just done the second trade, I would have made $400,000 more, or $40,000 more, or $4,000 more, right? You're like, damn, I'm early and it's costing me $400,000. Okay, but to me, it's just an intellectual process. You're 30 pips away from the true support and resistance. So what is the true support and resistance? To me, that I would want to ask that philosophical question. What is support and resistance? From your own analysis, not some talking head on TV, not some guy selling you something on YouTube, not some DVD you got somewhere. Just literally answer it for yourself. And I think it could be a huge breakthrough. You'd be an expert. Okay? And it might take you a while. You want to know about patience and discipline? 3 people just won, I think it was 2 days ago, they won the Nobel Prize for one of the science ones, anyways. Maybe physics, right? 2 of them were from MIT and 1 from somewhere else, right? And it was for discovering gravitational waves. And they discovered them and proved them like 2 years ago, which is really strange for the Nobel Prize Committee to give the Nobel Prize so quickly. Usually you have to wait 20 or 30 years. So I saw a picture of these 3 guys and I realized, oh, they're old, right? Like, why wait for them to be dead and then give them awards? So I don't know if they sped it up or whatnot, whatever, but they got to the top of the list. Boom, you won the Nobel Prize in physics or math or whatever it was. But then you realize these guys are geniuses, right? I mean, you don't stumble across gravitational waves in your garage. And I was explaining this to my children today as I was driving them to school. We're talking about the Nobel Prize and what it takes. I know. And I'm like, well, think about it this way. They were geniuses when they were kids, when they were 10, working on things like math, right? And 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and 16, 17, you know, at 20s. In their 30s, they're still studying math. In their 40s, they're still studying math and applying math to complicated questions like, how does the universe work? Proving it with math. Through their 40s, through their 50s, they're still studying math and applying mathematical concepts to very complicated questions that most people do not even comprehend. In their 60s, they're still doing math and getting better, and they're like, oh my God, well, we might be able to prove gravitational waves, and they're like, oh my God, let's crunch through the numbers, you know, like 70s, they're still doing it. Right? So I tell some guy, like, why do you spend a year focusing on support resistance? Forget it, Wayne. I want to be rich now. Just give me the Nobel Prize now. I want to skip the work. Let's just go. You know what I mean? It's funny when you run into an amateur like that, just like, I need to get rich today trading Forex. I'm like, okay. First of all, jump off a bridge. Oh, wait, no, that would be bad advice. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, you just failed. Just the question. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. So my advice has always been, just fall in love with being a currency trader. Yeah, you end up looking like me. I used to be pretty. If you met me 10 years ago, I was pretty. They're like, dude, you're so young. Now they're like, damn, what the hell happened to that guy? He must be a drunk. No, he's a currency trader. Oh, yeah. No, because I get all puffy and my eyes are shot, or just like, staring at charts forever. Yeah, I don't get enough sleep. I don't get consistent sleep and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyways, just love it. So when I tell you, like, just over the next year, focus on that very, very specific thing, Peter, that's cool, because guess what? In 2019, you'll focus on something else, but you'll have mastered that. And you'll probably make a lot more money. But imagine your confidence now that you've spent 1 year you're refining your trade so well that you're unbelievably confident at finding trend and finding support and resistance in the pullbacks or waves of trend. And you'll probably along the way in the trades that you lose money on, you'll find out that you longed at the end of the trend, which hadn't, let's say, been obvious yet, but certainly had telltale signs that we'd come to the end. Right? You see what I mean? So along the way now, when you're identifying your losing trades, you've identified tops and bottoms. And you're like, oh, snap. So now maybe you, in 2019, you work on the reversal type trades so that you can get into trends earlier than you would have the year before. Okay? And then imagine yourself 5 or 6 years from now. Oh my gosh. Peter the Great. And all the amateur traders that have come and gone, they don't survive that long because they don't do the right things. They don't do that. How many people in the United States, let's say, go to a driving range on a weekly basis? Out of the population of the United States, it wouldn't be that much. So you're a reasonably serious golfer, you've got some nice golf clubs, your whole wardrobe revolves around golf, you got golf pants and golf shirts, you wear golf shirts everywhere, business meeting, you wear golf shirts at church, you wear golf shirts to whatever. Okay? Okay, so Ryan says 1% of all golfers. And how many of them are professional golfers making millions of dollars per year? Like, still none. I bet you it's even less than that, Ryan. I mean, it's just statistically like nobody. So going to the driving range doesn't make you a professional golfer. Yeah. Right? You can hit 100 bad shots in a row in the driving range, and it's not making you a better golfer. Hang on. Okay. Hang on, I gotta close. How do I get out of this? So, right, so what if, now let's just do this. What if, especially with the help of a coach, instead of just going to the driving range and hitting a bucket of balls, what if, with the help of a coach, you stood in a sand trap and hit sand shots? Or you stood on a green. That's it. Even easier. Stood on a green, and for 1 year, you hit 12-foot putts. Would your putting improve? Yeah, no, like, and let's say you took it serious. Like, I'm a funny guy, right? I would go to all different types of courses and learn about the grass. I'd actually go to the, you know, the companies and visit the companies that produce the grass and the seed and stuff for the putter, you know, for these putting greens. I would learn the science behind the grass, how grass grows, how grass follows the sun all day, so I can figure out which way the blades of grass are pointing when I'm putting. I'm like, oh, it's about 3 in the afternoon, so the grass is going to be going this way, so it's going to slow my ball down just a tad, so I'll give it just a little kiss more. You know what I mean? But I'd be, and I don't know how long you've known me, but I'm nuts like that. I overdo everything. I'm crazy. I do stuff like that, right? But I tell you, after the end of 1 year, I'd be a hell of a good putter. I'd know everything about the science behind putting. I'd know everything about the science behind putting greens, right? I probably even wrote a book on it, because at that point, I would have spent my 1,000 hours. Or is it $10,000? The Zulu effect, whatever. I'm faster. I can do it in 1,000 hours. But whatever, right? I would know everything you could possibly know about golf balls, grass, putting greens, maintenance of putting greens, putters. Okay? So, for example, when I was a venture capitalist, one of the things that I oversaw were patents on putters. And I can tell you about the angle of the face, the point of the face, all these different things, the angle of the shaft and all this changes the way the ball rolls. Some putters create a backspin on the ball when you hit it. Others create topspin. Others kind of get it to slide and then spin. There's actually a science of the face of a putter and what it does based on physics to the ball. And that could change the way you putt. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Study the physics of making a ball roll by pushing on it. Okay? Yeah. Oh yeah. You can do this. So anyways, are you willing to do that as a trader? I think those that are, right? I think those are that have a long-term outlook are the ones that survive. And for me, when I got to the point where I was doing pro forma cash flow statements 3, 4, 5 years in advance, that taught me to have a long-term outlook. It was important to my success. So imagine you did putting for a year. And then the next thing you did for a year was 6 irons. Yeah, well, the efficient part is laser focus. So if you only had an hour a day, you're analyzing the very specific thing, right? But put it in a perspective like going back to the golf thing. You start at the green and work your way back, right? So let's say you spend 1 year mastering everything there is to know about putting. In the next year, you master everything about this 6-iron approach shot. So you can use a 6-iron for, let's say, 170 yards, but even 140 yards. So you get good at changing the club face or how hard you swing, or dropping the ball on the green, letting it run, dropping it in front of the green, letting it run. But you just really master that one 6-iron. And they're approach shots. So you get good at seeing the face of the green, so you can hit the slope and have it roll to the pin, or shaping left to right or right to left, hitting lows and bumping runs, and all these kinds of things. You're like, oh well, the wind is coming that way, so I got to approach it this way, but I want a little bit of height, so I got to do that. Well, that's going to counteract that, so then I got to do this. You're like, oh yeah, well I can do that. And you master the 6-iron, and then you master the next thing, and maybe on the 5th year you just spend 1 year doing nothing but driving. I would say at the end of 5 years you'd be a hell of a good golfer. So the same thing on like Peter's question, where you spend 1 year getting your entry better, trading in the direction of a trend, with the goal of maybe 20 extra pips per trade. But then the second year, because of in that process you've identified areas where you're less successful, and that's usually the tops or bottoms of trends. Well, in year 2 you really master that. You see what I mean? And you really focus on that, and you really study it. What is the price action? What are the pivots? What are the time frames? Is there seasonality or cycles within that? How do all the central banks line up? All these central bank meetings, how do they line up to creating new trends and ending trends to create new trends, right? And is there a history to that? So you can go back, you can buy the data, go back 10 years and start lining up like central banking policy meetings and tops and bottoms, and how's the price action. You know what I mean? Like literally, and now you're kind of getting yourself into the fundamentals. Maybe year 3, you're really starting to get into fundamentals. How do Fed meetings impact the cyclical nature of the markets? How do business cycles, which are now, let's say, 5 and 10 year cycles, how do they fit into this? How about news? Which news is important, which is not? How do, all this, and you can really, I mean, we're talking 1 year at a time, right? You could really, 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 really get good at trading currencies, but with that type of focus, knowing that it's a, let's say, a 4 or 5 year plan of you just intently studying. Okay, So it's like, again, I'll use my example, right? Signing up for a 4-year program. Signed on the dotted line. It's going to be an unbelievable amount of sacrifice, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and I'm going to have to live in Cambridge every summer for 4 years again, away from my wife and children, which, let me tell you, is not an easy thing for them, and not an easy thing for me, and not an easy thing for us. So it's emotional commitment, it's time commitment, it's effort commitment, it's money commitment, it's like insane commitment for 4 years. It's not quick. So you should be thinking the same for your currency trading too, right? So imagine, so we can take me as an example. I'm your mentor, so let's take me as an example. I must spend 20 hours a week at lecture, studying, or writing papers for Harvard. Sometimes more, but I doubt less. 20 hours a week. So what if you did 20 hours a week of just printing out and reviewing charts? But I didn't say just sitting here throwing down trades, studying, right? Studying, learning, mastering. That, you're like, well, Wayne, that's hours every day. What would I do for 2 hours on my charts? Yeah. So, right? And it's best when you're really, this is why Forex.Today should be super beneficial for you. You know, like Becca likes to follow up on her trades and stuff. That's it. Like, you post a trade. I think the market is going to do this for reason A, reason B, reason C, reason D. Here it is out here. Document your thought process. And go back in a few days. What actually happened? How right were you? How wrong were you? Why were you right? Or why were you wrong? How could you improve? Right? It's not about throwing down trades. It's about predicting the future. Right? Remember we talked about this 2 weeks ago? If you practice predicting the future, then trading theoretically should be so much easier. I don't care about your trading. You'll get that. Okay? What is going to happen in the near future is the bigger question. Is it going to go up or is it going to go down? Seems easy, but that's 99% of it, isn't it? Because if it's going up and you buy, who cares what price it is? You're either a little bit rich or very rich, depending on your entry. And then you can go back like Peter and refine your entry. Right? So I would, if I were me, because I did, I would spend hours a day learning how to predict the future. I wouldn't even worry about an entry. Maybe next year you'll work on the entry. Okay? Yeah, well, pain to gain ratios and all that kind of stuff, yeah. But see, my only thought is a lot of people jump into like tracking their statistics in great detail when they suck. We got to turn like the whole sucking part off first, right? It's like often when I meet with a new, let's say, you know, if I'm mentoring somebody, right? I'll see right away that every so often there's a bloodbath, right? You got to stop the bleeding. You got to like triage everything. What's the worst thing, right? So I would start with, all right, let's predict the trend, let's predict direction, let's get really good at that. Then we can refine things, and then we can do pain to gain ratios and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I think I've gone too far in time. Let's try to do one more. Apologize. Apologize, sorry. What should we do? We can look at yen pivots, maybe. Okay. Tricky, right? The trick here is you got monthly bulls and weekly bears duking it out. USD yen. Okay, this is daily chart. We're priced high on this, right? So somewhere along the line, you think this would be bare minimum, right? If it's going to stay bullish and then roll over. Okay. The bearish part of this is that people selling, come on, people selling this area are treating the market as a top. That's what their hypothesis is. Okay? So it depends on really what you want to do. Okay? I think this could fall for till the end of non-farm payrolls, then get oversold in this area and maybe head up off the monthly pivot. Could still, right? Even if we came down to the monthly pivot, it's still bullish, right? It hasn't made a lower low, has it? It'd be a lot more bullish if we're up in that zone, because then we're making a higher high. So I would treat it almost like range bound. Okay, so you could sell, and if you were a bear now, if you were a bear on this and you did sell here, you're probably thinking like this anyways to the bottom of the range. I'm not so sure on that based on seasonality, but again, that's my alpha. The alpha could be a dog with fleas. Okay. What do you want to do with this? Seems pretty plausible. If you think it's going to go up, how are you going to treat it now? Is that a range breakout scenario for you? If it's a range breakout scenario, you're looking at rule reversals or fibs. Either way, it's about the same thing. So if you believe this is a higher high off of the range, then you're doing a 1, 2, 3. Once again, seasonality would play a part of that type of analysis. Okay, so it's a higher high off a 618, right? So let me move this to even higher time frame. Right? So you can see now we really have to zoom out. But if you believe it's going to work its way north, higher high, higher low, higher high, and this might just be the setup of a higher low, but we're pretty zoomed out here. Okay? Daily says she wants to go up. 4 hours says she'll go up tomorrow, but whatever. And then here you have to decide long or not. CAD. Okay. Super tricky on this one, huh? So we had this range bound, broke out to the downside, zipped all the way up here, zipped all the way back down, but then finally did what it was supposed to do. Okay. If you're a bull, you've been buying down here. If you're a bear, you've had a reasonable opportunity, I guess yesterday, but not amazing outcome from it. And if I was a bull, I would read into this as something like that. But that's, again, that's confirmation bias. It may not actually be true. And this is still resistance as far as I'm concerned. But if you were a buyer of a range-bound market, you'd be buying down here. And of course, we know the weekly swing is M2, and we got a Stokes kicker here. So maybe the next move, if you're a bull, again, if you're a bull, is something like that. Okay? That would mean oil up. And of course, I'm long oil, so I'm prejudiced. I think that's it for today. It's 9 o'clock. I've already had a complicated day. So, yeah. Whew. Yeah, I'm tired already. Is it time for a nap? Yeah. Upload to YouTube. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'll download this. What you said? I didn't. I'm behind 2, so I'll do. If I'm behind 2 or need to do 3, I'll do them today. Yeah. Apologies. Yesterday I remember missing it, but just. It's like one of these things. Like I'm eating lunch at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and my face is numb. But, so, yes. Yeah, like what cap. Cool. Yeah, I haven't had anyone laugh at me for going to Harvard yet, but I'm pretty sure they talk under their breath. They're like, oh yeah, really good. There he is with his Harvard shirt again. Asshole. Harvard asshole. Like, what did you say? Did you just whisper something? No. Prick. Yeah. So anyways. So peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May your profits be above average. And yeah. Yeah, I have to work all day, and I have to find time to do some homework. Isn't that nice? See you tomorrow.